Earlier this summer, Florida State quarterback Thomas Castellanos called out Alabama. He's standing by what he said.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Shout out to the everydayers, and thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create your account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. I am Alex Dono from Locked On Canes. We'll hear from Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack a little bit later on. I'm already back home from ACC Media Days. Kenton is still out there grinding. We have a lot to talk about on this episode, including some of the top changes that are coming and not coming to the ACC in 2025. Kenton is going to sit down with Locked On Bets host Lee Sterling for a gambling preview and insights on the conference this year. And today, Wednesday, was Florida State Day. I thought Mike Norvell had some pretty passionate words about the climb for Florida State to dig out of that hole that they dug with 2-10 last season. But I know everybody wants to talk about Tommy Castellanos, transferred from Boston College, I should say, to Florida State, new starting quarterback. And a month ago, back on June 23rd, he had some comments for Florida State's opening opponent, the Alabama Crimson Tide, who were going to come into Tallahassee as about 2-touchdown favorites as it stands at this moment. And Castellanos basically said Alabama, not the same Bama, quote, they don't have Nick Saban to save them. I just don't see them stopping me, he said. Now, I always think context is important, not only on, what was said, but who says it. Castellanos seems to have that sort of fiery, confident personality. I don't think he was intending to try to give bulletin board material to the Crimson Tide. Whether or not they take it that way is up to them. I think Castellanos, he seems like a really nice dude for the sake of context. But I know that at the same time you make comments like that, it can create some headaches. Now, I know Florida State fans certainly don't care, but you guys know that I cover Miami, and I know it's pretty standard policy. It's not to say this policy has never been broken before, but when, you're still 5-6 weeks, in Castellanos' case was 7-8 weeks at the time away from an opponent, you're not really supposed to start talking about that specific opponent. I asked Mario Cristobal yesterday kind of what it means to him to open up against Notre Dame, the old school rivalry. He's like, yeah, we're not going to talk about the opening game until about 10 days before that game. So, you tend to want your guys focusing more on training camp coming up. And so, all right. So a month ago, Castellanos said what he said about Alabama and kind of took an indirect shot at Kalen DeBoer. He takes the podium today, and here's what Castellanos said about those comments he made.
I know we stand on what I said, but there's no disrespect between, that side with that team or anything like that. The confidence that I have in my teammates and the way we've been preparing and, putting this preparation together this offseason, I just feel confident in the guys and the work that we've been putting in. So just feel confidence in, me and my teammates and, Coach Norvell and how he's getting us ready to work and, get ready to, play.
Tommy, left side.
So first thing about, and that was Castellanos, he was asked about the comments he made about Alabama a month ago. First thing he said there that I thought was smart, instead of him saying, I stand on what I said, we stand on what I said. He made it a collective. He made it about his team and not just about him. I thought that was smart because you're the quarterback, you're the general, you're the leader of that team, not only the offense. I think kind of making it about his teammates and also talking about, hey, I didn't say what I said to be disrespectful. I said what I said because I'm confident. And he didn't just say, I'm confident in my abilities. I'm confident about my brothers and my teammates. So listen, obviously you can't take back what you said a month ago. You can't erase it. But I thought the way that Castellanos addressed it this morning, thought he did a pretty good job of kind of diffusing the inflammatory part of it. And, for the next 5 weeks or so, Florida State can just focus on football. And on that note, you're going to hear more about this when Kenton is going to be joined by Lee Sterling from Locked On Bets a little bit later on this episode. Florida State is, at least by the odds makers, expected to make a significant jump from last year. I mean, huge disappointment, the 2-10 season. The over-under, FanDuel now has Florida State 7.5 wins for this year. So, you either go over that 8 or more, or you go under that 7 wins or less. But, to go from 2 wins in reality last year to over under 7.5 on paper, they're expected to make a significant jump. But that doesn't happen automatically. And it doesn't happen just because of talent, because guess what? Seminoles were more talented than a 2-10 team, but 2-10 ended up being who they are. So here is Mike Norvell at the podium today talking about the climb and the buy-in that's required to try to bring that standard back up to Florida State levels.
Well, you talk about the climb, and, we all have a desired destination. Everybody wants to get to the top, right? And we've seen that. A couple of years ago, we got to lift the trophy. Most people talk about it. We've seen it. We know what that looks like, right? But on the flip side of it, when you go up, when you're climbing a mountain, there might be some times where you slip and where you stumble. But the most important step along the journey is the next one. And people that are willing, that regardless of circumstance, regardless of what you find yourself in, that you're willing to take the step to go be your best, to put everything that you have in, right? And I don't want a team full of sidekicks. Right? I want guys that are willing to grasp it, to hold it, to push it, to step forward, and to go be it, right? And that's what's needed. And that's what I believe that I'm seeing within this football team. That's what once again, we start fall camp next Wednesday, right? And I want them to be pissed off to go be their best every single day. Right? It's not about last year. It's not about anything that they've done up to this point in their career. It's about this season, with each day and every step that's in front of us, to go put it on display for what you want to be. Don't talk about it. Let's go do it. Right? And I feel the confidence within the team because, once again, I see their work. Right? I believe in who they are. I believe in the journeys that they've had. And no player on our team has had a seamless, perfect journey. There's been ups and downs for every one of them. But when they come and whether it was a recruiting process, whether it was the opportunity to come back and to be a part of what this team's going to be, I wanted guys that were on the edge of their seat, ready to go attack that work. And I can't wait to fall camp because I'm going to challenge them every single day and everything they do, mentally, physically, relationally, all parts of it, because that's what the season's going to hold. Right? And as we've seen that at an elite level, right? We also know we know how hard it is. To win a game, to win a play, to win a rep, obviously for what it takes for a season. But I believe in the group of guys that we've had that have come together, right? And and in today's age of college athletics, everybody has a choice because it's easy to leave, right? It's hard to stay, and it's hard to say yes when you know the expectations that are going to be put in front of you. And when you come to Florida State, well, you better embrace the highest of expectations, because what I have, it's what our program has. There is a standard of what it needs to look like. And I've got to uphold it, and so does everybody else a part of our team. Players, coaches, every single one of us. But I believe in what it's going to be, and I'm excited to get back on that practice field as we build and as we continue to climb to August 30th for our first opportunity to go put on display what this team has the potential to be.
Coach,
I'm extremely excited. I'm excited because of the characteristics that I've seen from this team. From the newcomers that have joined, from all the players that have returned, because every one of them said yes to the expectation. And you don't come to Florida State unless you're willing to embrace the greatest of expectations, because there is a standard. And every day that standard has to show up. And as we've sat there and coming off a year that was a disappointing season, we had some real conversations. And, ultimately it wasn't for everybody, right? The sacrifice, right? The investment, the work, the challenge, right? The confidence that had to be developed, right? Because every team and every player that stands in front of you is going to tell you how confident they are, right? But for that confidence to be real, it has to be earned. There has to be the work. There has to be, the truest belief of being able to embrace that in all things that makes up who you are. And that's what gives me excitement for this year. Because I've watched a football team of guys that have said yes. And they're not just saying it with their voice; they're saying it with their action. And we've got some wonderfully talented players, but even with all of them, none of them have hit their final stage. All of them are continued growth in progress. And they're embracing, that journey. They're embracing the opportunity, and to see them come together, to see that excitement within the position groups, the side of ball, and then collectively as a football team, and just to see how much they enjoy who they're getting to do it with, and that gets me fired up. And all of it sounds good. Now we get to go get it done on the field, but I got a tremendous amount of confidence because of that work.
He was fired up, that's for certain. Florida State head coach Mike Norvell. Oh, so later on in this episode, folks, going to talk about some of the biggest changes coming to the ACC this year, including NFL-style injury reports, which, by the way, that's going to help the gamblers. And speaking of that, Lee Sterling, who's a professional sports handicapper and the host of Locked On Bets, he's going to sit down with Kenton Gibbs, and they're going to take a look at the ACC. Who's going to win the conference? Who's going to come close? Most overrated, underrated teams? You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Guys, the only ticket app that Kenton Gibbs and I use is Gametime, because you're getting the best prices, the best features. You're not getting any sort of shenanigans, by the way, is what I love about Gametime. If you've ever decided to head last minute to a ball game with friends or family, I do that all the time. Maybe it's game day. You suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes all of that possible because Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. They've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And if you're, looking for tickets to that Florida State Alabama game, down my way in South Florida, you're looking for tickets for Miami opening up against Notre Dame, I'm telling you, Gametime is the spot, and the deals keep getting better. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create your account, and redeem code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account and redeem code Locked On College. All one word, Locked On College for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
We are live, day 2, ACC Media Days. We're here in Charlotte with Mr. Locked On Bets himself, Lee Sterling. Now, normally, Donna would be handling this. I'm not the gambling degenerate on the show. That's not me. But we're going to do our best to talk about some bets in the ACC today because there's a lot of motion going on right now. Yeah. There's a lot of this and that going on in terms of lines moving, under-overs moving. Yeah. And as camp goes on, we all know football's a physical game. There's going to be some injuries. There's going to be some things that move the lines. But before those lines get moved, we're here to talk to you about all things ACC betting with Lee Sterling. How you doing today, Lee?
Great. We're back. Locked On Bets is back. So been about a year, but we're back, and I'm with Kevin Rogers every single day, Monday through Friday, usually up by 10:30 on Apple and Spotify and on YouTube by 11 a.m. So you got a long period of time every day, to listen and get your bets in. We're not going to put them out there a half hour before the game. So love to have you subscribe. Anyone who's watching, you wager on the game, subscribe on YouTube. And like I said, always doing giveaways for people that subscribe. But ACC is going to be fun this year because last year SMU came out of nowhere.
Right.
You remember SMU,
at best a dark horse.
Ends
up.
They started the year, they barely beat Nevada on the road, and then they lose. They beat a nobody week 2. They lose to BYU, get blown out. I mean, the score didn't indicate how much of a blowout it was. And then they run out every single game until the ACC championship
Not
game.
to mention a quarterback change in there as well with Kevin Jennings taking over for an all-conference performer in Preston Stone. So you're absolutely right. That was an abnormal season for SMU. And let me tell you, that brings me to the best values. Because if you would have taken SMU to the ACC championship, how much would you have made?
Oh, you would have been you probably would have owned an island in the Bahamas right now. So
if you take SMU to the college football playoff last year, right?
Yeah.
Making off like a Ben.
Oh, they had to be like 8 or 10 to 1 underdogs at that point after they had lost to BYU. They were off everyone's radar. They were 2-1, but like I said, they had barely beaten Nevada and nobody and lost to BYU, who at the time no one thought was any good. And this year, there's a couple underrated teams and one that might be dear to your heart.
Well, let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah.
Because that SMU bet, for a lot of reasons, it provides a lot of value, or it would have provided a lot of value last year. If you're looking at the landscape of the ACC this year, who are you looking at as a team to say, you know what, the nation may not believe in them, but you believing in them with your wallet could pay some heavy dividends?
Yeah. So NC State, one team very near and dear to your heart, is right up there.
I am not paying him to say this. I am not twisting his arm. This is under his own volition.
So Dave Doran, in his career, when you think a lot of his team, they're going to let you down. It's like an elevator going from the top floor or close to the top all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Last time he had a really bad year was 2019.
Yes.
They went 4-8 and 2-9-1 against the spread. If you were backing them that year, I mean, you're living on the streets or under a bridge. Now, the next year after that debacle, he goes 8-4 straight up and against the spread.
Yeah.
I love CJ Bailey. I saw him as a freshman quarterback, and people say, well, he has a wonky delivery. You know, he had weapons in high school. Any quarterback starts as a ninth grader and looks good, trust me, they're a winner. So he has a full year under his belt. I think even though CJ Concepcion Casey is gone, I just think they have enough receiver depth to be good. Their offensive line returns 4 starters. They got 2 transfers in. They have almost 150 starts returning on the offensive line, and their defensive line and linebackers are going to be solid.
Yeah.
Over under 6.5. I think they're going to win 7, probably 8 games this year.
Well, Lee said it, not me. Okay, Lee said it. So again, under his own volition, he is not being paid. Okay, he is not. We would tell you if it was a paid advertisement. But now let's look at the flip side of this, right? Because the law of the wolf with the wolf pack, we all know when you expect the most, you get the least. Expect the least, get the most. Who are teams that you're looking at this year and you're just like, Vegas has got this one wrong? They're going to take your money all day and tomorrow if you take this bet in terms of this team's under over. Who are you looking at in that aspect?
Another one is SMU in conference. SMU, like I said, no one paid attention to them, but I think they're going to have problems here because they lost a couple key running backs, couple key receivers, and their defensive line has been gutted because of graduation. So they're trying to fill it in with some transfers. And if you're always looking for transfers, remember what FSU happened that one year, feast or famine. The over-under is 8.5. I think they're going to only win probably about 7 games. So overrated team, SMU. If you want to bet the over, you could be in big trouble.
No, that's fascinating because this is a team coming off back-to-back 11-win seasons. One conference championship in the American, one conference championship appearance, first year in the ACC, and that's a team that you're telling America, look out. So this is some fool's gold.
So Kevin Jennings, he came in when Preston Stone had the, I think it's called the yipes. He couldn't, he like when in baseball, it's the guy, the pitcher can't throw the ball, the catcher, or the second baseman can't even get to first base. He couldn't even throw the ball 10 yards.
Right.
So no one expected him. You don't think in the offseason that they're going to game plan for this guy? They got a lot of tape on him now. I think they'll be ready for him. And one more team I like underrated, Virginia Tech. So 6-7 last year, and they lost a bowl game to Minnesota.
Yes.
Teams that lose bowl games, like NC State, like Virginia Tech, they fall off the radar. But they have a transfer running back, Terrion Stewart from Bowling Green. Remember that name? I think he's going to have a big season.
Okay.
And that spread option. Third-year starting quarterback in drones.
Yeah.
Their linebackers and defensive line. They allowed only 3.9 yards per carry. You think usually 6 and 7 teams giving up 4.5, 5 yards a carry. Not the case. 3.9, and they had 37 sacks on the year. They return almost everyone. I think they're going to be much better. I think they'll cut it down to about 3.5 yards or less running the ball, maybe over 40 sacks. And they have the number 11 special teams last year. People always talk about offense, defense. They forget about special teams.
Beamer ball is back. And Blacksburg is what you're telling me.
And one last thing here. They lost 2 games in overtime. 2 in overtime, and that heartbreaker to Miami. Where I'm a Miami fan, but I can't tell you for sure that that they should have been the team that won. So
I'll tell you this much, and you're the betting guy. So I'm gonna let America take your advice on this one. I'm a little worried about belief in Kyron drones. It starts feeling like what was the movie Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray over and over again. I'm like, this is Kyron Drones' year. He's gonna do it this year, y'all. He's got together this year, and time again, he disappoints. But there is something to be said. And last year, he was starting to get it together before some injuries occurred. And you're going into year 3, which is now year 2 of full off season as the guy. That's your team. That's your locker room for a second year. All the tools are there. He's a first cousin of Cam Ward. You can see that lineage. Granny ought to be proud. Okay, Grandpa ought to be proud. They made some ball players. But I'm a little concerned about him putting it all together. What would you say to put those doubts to rest?
Oh, I'm not expecting. He doesn't need to be all conference first team or even second team. He's third or fourth team with that many good quarterbacks. He's going to be fine in the schedule. So everyone loves South Carolina. First game, they're getting 9.5 points. Might want to jump on it. I think that's a game that goes down to the wire. The wrong team might even be favored there.
You heard it here first, folks. Wrong team favorite. Lee, thank you so much for showing up, man. Please tell the folks where they can find your work again before we get you out of here.
Go to Locked On Bets and, like I said, like and subscribe. And if you're interested in my service, my 32nd year, we've had 30 out of 31 winning seasons in football. We do it all, even UFC, where we won 8 of the last 9 cards. So my 2 specialties are football and UFC. We do baseball we're winning at, even do hockey and basketball. Check out all the specials, ParamountSports.com.
Y'all heard it here first, folks. He is much smoother than just the bets. You see the hair as well, as slick back. You know, that's who Lee is. He go get you to going. And even if you're not a bettor like myself, you still just want to watch the content. Come on back for the next segment of Locked On ACC.
Thanks so much to Kenton Gibbs and Lee Sterling. And shout out, by the way, Kenton was also the cameraman for those Florida State videos that we played, and we'll have some more of that stuff throughout the week for you guys. And shout out to our guy JJ Jackson from Locked On Blue Devils, who's also been kicking butt out there at the ACC kickoff. I could only make it a day and a half out there. I tapped out, but Kenton and JJ are still holding it down. And all right, so I wanted to talk about some of, I think, the most significant changes and most significant remarks that Commissioner Jim Phillips made, Commissioners Forum this week. Availability reports in the 4 major sports in the ACC. Now, coaches are not going to like this. They like to keep injury issues close to the vest. But at this point, for the sake of transparency, the ACC is now going to require those designations, right? Upper body, lower body. Are you doubtful, questionable, probable? In the days and hours leading up to games, ACC schools will be required to submit a current injury report and update their availability, easy for me to say, availability status for game day. This will be made public. Quote, Jim Phillips said, for football, it will be 2 days before, the day before, and then 2 hours before kickoff. For basketball and baseball, it will be 1 day before and then 2 hours before tip-off or first pitch, he said. So more transparency, you have to like that. Speaking of transparency, I mean, we were talking with Al Riveron, head of ACC officiating, on Tuesday, and he was telling me about how they're going to have more detailed officiating reports, and they're going to have the audio available of when they're discussing replay decisions back at headquarters. So I think we've all had our officiating conspiracies. I'm not even calling you guys out. I've had my own officiating conspiracies over the years. So at least now we're going to get that sort of transparency, that we're going to be actually able to hear what they're talking about in those replay rooms, which I think is significant. So something else that the conference is doing is they're going to start cracking down big time on court stormings and field stormings after upsets. And, the court stormings happen a little more often in the ACC. Pretty much anytime Duke loses a game, they're storming the court afterwards. And it's just as fun as it may look. I've never been a part of a court storming or a field storming. I'm just such a straight edge. I stay in my seat, or I've seen some unfold. I've just never been one of the hooligans that go out there and take part in it. But there are safety concerns, for the athletes, the coaches, and even the fans, and property damage can be done. So you try to eliminate court storming and field storming. So starting this season, there's actually going to be a fine structure. The fines will start at $50,000, then they go up to $100,000 and $200,000, according to CardinalSports.com. These will accumulate and add over the course of both the football and basketball seasons. All fines will go to the postgraduate scholarship fund. So I guess if you're looking for your graduate degree, maybe you're rooting for court storm. All kidding. I'm not a fan of that stuff as mentioned, but they're going to be cracking down on that. Phillips talked about the expansion of the college football playoff, which, listen, whether he likes it or not, it's going to happen, because if the SEC and the Big Ten, if they want to expand the playoffs, Jim Phillips can't stop them. Brett Yormark, commissioner of the Big 12, can't stop him. It's the SEC and Big Ten's world, and we're just living in it. So, the expansion from 12 to either 14 or 16 is going to happen, and it's going to happen within the next couple of years. Jim said fairness and access should also be part of the equation. He says we have a really good playoff right now. It's the 5-7 model, which is, the 5 conference champions are guaranteed to get in. Although, as we noted here on Locked On ACC, you are no longer guaranteed a first-round bye if you're one of the 4 highest-rated conference champions. They're going to straight seeding now. He says, I always look to our championships and try to have as much access as possible. He says, I want to stay committed to access and fairness to all of college football, not only the ACC, to protect our AQ. So another issue that has come up, because, the SEC is very much in favor of this. The Big Ten already does it, and that's 9 conference games. It doesn't sound like Jim Phillips is in favor of 9 conference games, though, in ACC football. They're currently at 8. You play 8 conference opponents, 4 non-conference. But I think, to me, it makes sense for the ACC to stay at 8, because if you're in the ACC, a big non-conference game can help you more than, an extra game against Wake Forest or Virginia. I know I always pick on those 2 schools, but you know what I mean. Like, obviously ACC teams have an opportunity to play against Notre Dame with their scheduling agreement, which is going to raise the profile of your non-conference schedule. You've got Florida State is playing Alabama. Clemson is playing LSU this year, just to name a few. Syracuse is playing like a gauntlet non-conference. So, I think, to me, if you have, in the case of the ACC, if you have 8 conference games and then the opportunity for more open dates to schedule bigger non-con games, in my opinion, that helps, or at least it has the potential to help your resume more than playing the extra conference game. Where if you're in the SEC and you're in this vacuum of, every SEC win counts for more in the eyes of the committee, then you want to play more conference games. In the ACC, you could probably benefit from, an extra date to schedule a big non-con game, if that makes sense. So and also Phillips noted he doesn't want to, take away non-conference rivalry games, which you could put those in jeopardy with an extra conference game. He says those rivalry games that we really enjoy, I think that the fans really enjoy, I think some of those would go away, and it now focuses on everybody's conference schedule. Then it is a mix of conference schedule and non-conference. That's what they have now. He likes it. He says, we have discussed 9. We discussed 9 several times in my 5 years as commissioner. The group has always felt that at the end of the day, those non-conference games have really been good for the league, and we have really scheduled well. And, the ACC actually has, and the Notre Dame scheduling agreement helps this a lot, but the ACC has had the most difficult, at least last year, the top non-conference scheduling out of the other power conferences. So in that department, they seem to be doing something right. So those were some of the big takeaways, I thought, from what Jim Phillips discussed. We discussed some of the other takeaways over the last couple of days, but folks, I want to thank everyone for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch. Huge shout out to Lee Sterling from Locked On Bets for joining Kenton Gibbs. I am Alex Dono from Locked On Canes. Make sure you check out Kenton on Locked On Wolfpack as well. And we'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Locked On ACC. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.